What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Derek Ruby Show. I am your host, the previously mentioned Mr. Ruby. This is your Wrestlemania 33 review. Now, Wrestlemania 33 was held in the Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida, with an attendance of 75,245 people. And our first match was in the pre-show. It was Austin Aries versus Neville for the Cruiserweight Championship. It was a pretty solid match, pretty good opener. Austin Aries took a nasty bump on the back of his head after a German suplex. It had a pretty climactic finish. It was a good opener to get the crowd going, and Neville retains the Cruiserweight Championship. Then we had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. There were lots of people in this match. I felt really bad for Big Show in this match because Big Show was supposed to have a match with Shaq. And apparently, somehow or another, whether it was a conflict with Shaq's people and they just couldn't come to an agreement or whatever, that match did not happen. And Big Show is in the best shape of his life, and he has stated that this is probably going to be his last year. And unfortunately, he didn't win this Battle Royal. And surprisingly, after eliminating Jinder Mahal, Mojo Rawley did. Then we had Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose taking on the challenger Baron Corbin. It's a shame because the Intercontinental title has pretty much been the opening match, I believe, for WrestleMania the past couple years, and this year it was relegated to the pre-show. But they had a pretty good solid match, a lot of back and forth. Dean tried to do that little move where he does that little flip thing on the ropes, and Corbin cut him off and kicked him right in the face, so that was pretty inventive. But overall, it was back and forth, but in the end, Dean Ambrose hits the dirty deeds and retains the Intercontinental title. Then WrestleMania starts, and we have a segment with our WrestleMania host, The New Day. After that, we go on to our first match, which was AJ Styles taking on Shane McMahon. This was a pretty solid match. It had a lot of good spots in it. There was a few table spots. You know, Shane did the old get the trash can and do the Van Terminator off the top rope from one end of the ring to the other. But in the end, with a phenomenal forearm, AJ Styles knocked Shane McMahon out and won the match. Good for him. It's AJ's first WrestleMania victory, and I feel like he deserved it. Then the United States Championship match. Champion Chris Jericho took on Kevin Owens. There was a lot of build for this match, the Festival of Friendship breakup, the best friends angle. So there was a lot going into it. I understand why this got on the main show, and I guess the Intercontinental title didn't. Very good match, a lot of moves, a lot of good spots in the match. But in the end, Owen picks up the victory and wins the United States Championship. Then we had the Raw Women's title match with Champion Bayley defending against Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Nia Jax. And everybody except Nia had a pretty badass entrance. And this is definitely one of the better matches on the show. There was a lot of good psychology. Nia Jax, she beat up all the smaller girls in the beginning. Then they all teamed up on her and they got rid of her fairly quickly. Like I said before, the psychology was really good. Charlotte did a turnbuckle spot where she knocked Sasha Banks out. She was eliminated. Then it came down to Bayley and Charlotte, and Bayley picked up the victory, and it was a big moment for Bayley. You could tell by the signs of the crowd and the way people reacted that, you know, Bayley is obviously the women's version of John Cena. You could just see that she was kind of taken aback by the size of the crowd as she was walking to the ring, and you could tell that she had tears in her eyes when she won the match. So good for her. I really like this one. Then we had the Raw Tag Team title ladder match with The Club, Enzo and Big Cass, and Sheamus and Cesaro. And before the match starts, the New Day comes out and say because they're the hosts that they're going to add another tag team to this match. And a lot of people expected that it was going to be the New Day. But my stepson Jonathan said it was going to be the Hardys, so shout out to him. And sure enough, it was. And as the Hardys came to the ring, there was a delete chant. Matt only did the delete sign once, and it was a hell of a match. There was a lot of spots in it. It's exactly what you would expect out of the ladder match. It was exciting, and in the end, the Hardys did win the title. And what's amazing is they just competed in a ladder match the night before against the Young Bucks at the Ring of Honor show. So they just lost the Ring of Honor tag team titles, and now they're the WWE Raw tag team champions. And when they won the match, the crowd did a delete chant, and the second Matt and Jeff started doing the delete sign, WWE cut right away to the replay. So it's obvious to me that WWE doesn't really want to show this on TV because of the lawsuit between Impact and the Hardys. All I gotta say about that is the fans want the Hardys to be broken, so Impact, drop your lawsuit, please. Then we had one of the most promoted matches that everybody was talking about. John Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. And this was a fun match. It was really solid. The Miz got a huge reaction. Probably not because The Miz was so over, but more or less because everybody just hates John Cena. You know, when you go to these WrestleMania, it's pretty much full of smart marks. There's a lot of fans from throughout the world that go to WrestleMania that are just appreciate great wrestling. And, you know, they like to hate on John Cena. It's their thing. But John Cena and Nikki Bella won the match, and then John Cena proposed to Nikki Bella as if it was a shock to her, like she didn't know because everybody else did. So, but for what it was a decent match. It was entertaining. Moving on, we get the Seth Rollins and the Triple H match that should have happened last year, but didn't because of injury to Seth Rollins' leg, and we almost didn't have that match this year because of an injury. But we had another giant Triple H entrance where he was on the motorcycle with Stephanie, with a bunch of cops on motorcycles escorting him to the ring. There was a lot of psychology in this match. Triple H really worked on Seth Rollins' leg. Seth Rollins did a lot of good moves in the match, and eventually Triple H got bumped into Stephanie, and she went through a table, and Seth Rollins was able to hit the pedigree for the win. So all in all, it was a pretty good match. Then we had the WWE Championship match. The champion Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. Out of your 3 main event matches, this was probably your best one. There was a lot of solid back and forth, but in the end, Randy Orton was able to hit the RKO and win the WWE title for like the billionth time. So kudos to Randy for that one. Then right after, we had the Brock Lesnar versus Bill Goldberg Championship match. Goldberg being the Universal Champion, and everybody wondered, would Goldberg's match last more than 2 minutes? Well, we timed it, and I don't know what the official time actually is, but we got about 4 minutes, 47 seconds, something like that. And this match was kind of a disappointment. There was suplex after suplex and spear after spear. At one point, Goldberg speared Brock Lesnar outside, and then he did give him a knee to the body one time, so that was different. More suplexes, more spears, and then finally the F5 for the victory. And Brock is your new Universal Champion. I'm sure we'll see that title again in about 6 months at SummerSlam. But who knows? Then we had the women's six-pack match for the SmackDown women's title. We had champion Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch versus Naomi versus Mickie James versus Natalya and Carmella with James Ellsworth. Now, the problem with matches when you have more than 4 or 5 competitors is the more you start adding to them, people are taking finishers, rolling out of the ring, just getting hit, trying to do their spots. It's kind of a clusterfuck sometimes. But this was not too bad. A lot of the stuff was very inventive. They did a few interesting spots. And in the end, the hometown girl Naomi won. And good for her, you know, she's been in the company a long time. She just had the title a couple months ago, and she had to vacate it because of injury. So for her to have a WrestleMania moment, especially as far as she's come from being there so many years and working really hard, I'm glad that she got that moment. And now finally we move on to the main event, which was The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. And I want to state before I go over this that I love The Undertaker. Okay, I used to watch The Undertaker in WCW when he was Mean Mark Callis, and he was being managed by Paulie Dangerously, and his finishing move was the Heart Punch. I saw him when he debuted at the 1990 Survivor Series. I even saw them talk about him on Superstars when they still referred to him as Kane the Undertaker. So I've been watching The Undertaker for pretty much almost his whole career. And unfortunately, The Undertaker is getting on in years, and this match was okay, especially in the beginning, but then it started going downhill the longer the match went on. You know, The Undertaker had trouble getting Roman up for the last ride. There was a lot of physicality, but The Undertaker just after some chair shots and a few things, he was just really having trouble standing up. There was one time where it looked like Roman was going to try to pick him up for a tombstone, and from the position he was grabbing Undertaker, he was trying to flip up to help Roman, and he tried at least twice and he couldn't. They just kind of gave up on the spot, and Roman went to doing spears. And there was a couple times where I don't know if it's inexperience or it's just because the Undertaker couldn't do anything. You know, Roman did look a little lost at spots, and I know Roman can go because he's had some kick-ass matches with quite a few people on the last, I don't know, every pay-per-view match he's had this year. The Undertaker even had a spot where he had trouble sitting up. I don't know if he was just selling that or what, but you know, the Undertaker, he might be willing to still go, but I don't think his body is anymore. And it may just be time for him to retire, and I think he might have because he lost this match. It was the last match of the show. They wanted Ric Flair's retirement match to be the last match of the show some years ago, and he turned it down because he wanted it to be the championship match. If this is Undertaker's last year, it would make sense that they would put him on last because of the legacy that he has had. So Roman won, got booed out of the building, and then they gave The Undertaker one hell of a send-off. Now last year, he took his gloves off and left him in the ring, so a lot of people thought that was his last match. This year, he took his gloves, his hat, and his coat off and put him in the ring. People were chanting, "Thank you, Taker," and they closed out WrestleMania with Undertaker, even though he lost. And you know, as much as I love The Undertaker, and I know if you're listening to this, you probably do too, you know, I don't want to see The Undertaker get hurt. He's getting older. You know, I want to remember The Undertaker when he was in his prime and for all the great matches that he has given us over the years. I just really wouldn't want to see the guy get hurt just because I like The Undertaker. So if it is his last year, I'm sure he'll be in the Hall of Fame next year. So thanks and kudos to The Undertaker for all the great years he's given us. If it's not his last year, well, I guess we'll see him next year. So overall, this was a pretty good show, but I can't give it too high of a rating because honestly, 2 of its main events were kind of a disappointment. So I would give WrestleMania 33 3.5 stars. So thank you guys for listening to the Derek Ruby Show. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. So have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time.